Mama, mama, can't you see?
Mama, mama, can't you see?
What this army's done to me?
What this army's done to me?
Mama, mama, can't you see?
Mama, mama, can't you see?
What this army's done to me?
What this army's done to me?
And we're live with the Veteran Effect here, Francisco Valencia. You guys know me as Valencia. We got a special guest today. It goes by the name of Douglas Taurel, an actor out of Hoboken, New Jersey. How you doing, Douglas?
I'm doing great, man.
So Douglas Taurel hit me up a couple weeks ago on our Instagram, and he is an actor and a playwright, and he has this amazing play where he reads letters from veterans all the way from, what was it, from the Revolutionary War?
Yeah,
all the way
it's
up to
based on
present day.
present day. All the way through Afghanistan.
All right, so let's find out a little bit about Douglas Taurel before we get into this play. Where are you from, Douglas? I mean, I said Hoboken, but
Yeah, well, I mean, just for your listeners, Hoboken is basically, they call it the sixth borough of Manhattan. It's literally right across the Hudson River.
nice.
Pretty much every view you see of Manhattan is taken from Hoboken or Jersey City. It's
Nice.
that close. So
Okay.
it's not deep in New Jersey. It's famous it's the home of Frank Sinatra and
Yeah,
the birth
Frank.
of baseball.
There you go.
But I'm originally from Texas, Houston, Texas.
Oh, what?
Yep. I've been here about 20 years, but I grew up in Houston, Texas. I still have friends and some family there, but yeah, that's where I'm from.
And what made you move to Hoboken, New Jersey?
Well, you know, as an actor, you have two choices, really. You have L.A., New York. So I was at a point where I needed to make a move, and I chose to go east with my girlfriend then, who is my wife and mother of two kids now.
Oh, fantastic. So you chased your dreams. You went for it. You went for what everybody is afraid of. You grabbed life by the nuts and you just went for it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Or it's got I don't know who has who by the nuts right now, though. But yeah.
Well, I've checked out a little bit of your work. You've done some acting with some pretty big actors over there. I saw you with
Yeah.
Method Man, Taraji, and to name a few others.
Yeah, it was funny. You know, Method Man. I didn't know who he was when I worked with him.
No?
I'm not really into rapping music.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue, and I thought he was just another actor playing, a villain. And I was just playing the cop, and he had like a following on set. Everyone kept talking to him, and then he was and he was signing autographs, and I was like, who the heck is this guy? And then a friend of mine saw the movie. And I still didn't know who he was. I just thought, I don't know what's going on. And then a friend of mine saw the movie, was the cobbler, and he said, dude, you got to work with Method Man. And I said, who is Method Man? And I finally looked him up, and I found out he was part of a huge rap group. And, I mean, I'm sure if you're into rap music, you know who he is. So, yeah, that's a funny story.
He's pretty influential in the rap world.
Yeah. He was a nice guy, though. Really nice guy.
Wu-Tang. Yeah, no, I was sure. How was Adam Sandler?
I didn't get to work with him. I mostly worked with Method Man and the director was also great, Tom McCarthy. But he was super nice. I was putting a gun in his face. He never. I mean, he was just like, I was literally, when I tell you, I was clueless who the guy was.
That's awesome.
Absolutely clueless. But he couldn't have been a nicer guy. I should have taken a picture with him because I think I would have got tons of posts. I literally walked off set after I finished working, and I said was more focused on the director. I didn't
I hear you.
And until later, I found out who he was. If I see him again somewhere, I'll share the story with him personally.
Nice. So what inspired you to become an actor?
It's a long story, but it's very cliche. I wanted to impress a girl way back after I got out of high school, and I got into it in college, and the bug bit me, and that's how I got into it. And then I was fortunate enough to get a theater scholarship. I auditioned for some school play in college. I went to a junior college first. I went to Angelina College, and then I transferred out to Ole Miss. But when I was at Angelina, I didn't know what I was going to do. My mother, right after high school, she literally stuck me in the car, and she said, I'm driving you to a school, and I'm going to get you away from home. Partying a lot, and I was just doing probably a lot of the wrong things, and it was the best thing she could have ever done for me. And I yeah, I was bitten by the bug of acting right there, and then Pat Baldwin, I think she's passed, let her rest in peace. But she said, you're really good. I'd like to give you a scholarship. And then I got a scholarship to finish to double major there. I majored in business and theater, and then I thought after that I was going to be done. And then another very influential teacher, I'm a big fan of teachers and veterans. He said, are you going to audition for the major universities? I said, no, I think I'm pretty much done. His name was Patrick Vaughn, and he prepared me, and I auditioned, and I went to Ole Miss. And as they say, the rest is history. By then, I was already well bit.
There you go. So for you, it was no question whether it was New York. The only question was New York or Los Angeles.
Yeah. I mean, there's really two markets. I mean, I would have loved to stay in Houston, but I mean, there's just two markets. Yeah,
no, definitely. Well, my hat's off to you. I mean, that's one of those things that a lot of people are afraid to do, and you've had some success in it, and it's awesome. So from there, you decided to become a playwright. When did that happen?
Well, it's funny that I write so much. I mean, I've written 2 plays and a web TV series, and I've written a lot of columns for a couple online magazines. A lot of columns, actually. I'm a contributor for Backstage and Honeysuckle, but I was horrible in English in college. I mean, literally horrible. I wasn't any good. So, when you're an actor, you have to push yourself, and you have to create your own press, and you have to kind of create your own vehicles. And it was mostly out of necessity. And I always wanted to write a story that I was always getting cast and stuff that I didn't like, and none of the plays I really enjoyed. And there was a couple. So I realized that I started producing a couple plays, and I said, if I want to perform in roles that I'm really passionate about, I kind of need to create something. And that's how I started writing The American Soldier, and I started researching it. And I started that about 10 years ago, and I started just basically it just really started as a half-ass idea. I didn't think it would ever be successful. I really didn't. No, I mean, it was about 10 years ago when we were heading in the Middle East, and I did have a affinity for veterans and what they were going through, and what I was reading, how they were struggling. I felt it was unfair that veterans were coming home and were struggling with either financial burdens or PTSD, and we're just having a hard time to adjust. So my parents are immigrants, and I wanted to let people know why we should be thankful as Americans to our veterans. So I had this idea that I was going to research the revolution, and I was going to go basically create a play about the revolution and remind us. So I started going to the New York Public Library and researching letters.
Hold on, we're having a little technical difficulty. Something just happened. So I started researching all these different revolutionary letters, and just one thing after another. As I jumped in the pool, I kept swimming, and I just went deeper and deeper. And then I started researching, the Civil War, and then I'm a big fan of the Civil War, and then I started researching Vietnam letters, and it just kind of, long story short, I ended up having like 5 years worth of material of letters from veterans that veterans have and their families have written. And there's a lot of information, in the public library, and back then when I started this project about, 12, 13 years ago, the internet wasn't the internet that it is today. Mm-hmm. Now everything is on the internet. I mean, literally everything. Back then, it wasn't so dynamic, and so I started basically, as I had these collections and people started hearing about them, people started sending podcasts and different websites that started adding letters from different conflicts, and it got to a point for a while where I started asking people, please, don't send me any more stuff, and I've got more stuff that I know what to do with. And, and you have to really, when you read veteran material, you really have to sift through it, because, a lot of the guys, most of the time they write about mundane stuff that's not really interesting,
especially during the Revolution. Like the Revolution, I always laugh because I remember reading about, I found Joseph Plum. Joseph Plum and Ebenezer Fox were two very famous revolutionary Minutemen, and they chronicled their whole experience. So their stuff is really interesting. But even then, and a lot of the guys in the Revolution, they were mostly illiterate, so they didn't, write really well. But even the guys who were literate, they would write like, today I had monkfish, and I go hunting and I shoot squirrel tomorrow. Tomorrow we march. Today I had monkfish. Tomorrow no march. I look forward to going to Mary's house and having soup. And so it was like, so you had to read through all this stuff, and it was the same thing in Vietnam and same thing with Afghanistan. A lot of the guys talked about mundane stuff, but you started in each conflict, you would find chunks that were really very powerful and very, really dynamic, and they really moved you. And so you would highlight those chunks, or, I would make copies of those pieces of sections, and then I would put them in a folder, and that's how I started filtering which letters were good and which letters weren't any good. And then I just started putting it together and trying to get a director and workshopping it, and it just became what it is. And long story short is just the more people heard about the project, the more people wanted me to keep going and keep doing the project. And then I had found a director. His name was Patrick Lillis, and he was known for doing solo shows. And so I kind of pitched him. I pitched a lot of directors, and a lot of directors told me, I have no idea what you want me to do with this. I've literally had a stack of veteran letters, and he was like, what's your favorite letter out of all of them? So he made it really specific for me, and so I found a favorite letter, and I turned it into a monologue, and I shared it to him, and he was like, that's pretty good. Can you find me another one? And I found another one, and I said, would you be interested in working on it? And that's how it started. So it wasn't like I chose to be a writer. I wanted to say something for veterans, and then it just started spiraling out of control. And then I, once you start a project, I have the bad habit of never wanting to quit something. So once I start the project, I needed to finish it. And the further I went in, I got to a point where I just got to find a way to get this thing done,
Yeah, no, definitely.
And that's how the project became what it is today. And then, I workshopped it, and people. I remember I workshopped. The play has changed a lot. It's. I'll let you go on. I'll let you ask a couple questions, but the play, what it is today, is not what it was 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, it's evolved, right?
Oh yeah, tremendously. It's evolved tremendously, and it's even evolved from when everybody thought it was amazing, and when I got nominated for an Amnesty Award. I worked with another director, Stephen Jobs, and he was, he helped me basically kind of restructure it a little bit to give it more oomph, so to say.
So, man, that sounds like a long, involved process, and
was. I don't recommend it. I was pretty stressed out about it. There was a period when I couldn't find a director, and I didn't know what to do with it. I just had years of research stacked in a big drawer, and I was already like 6 years in, and I was just lost. I was really confused of what to do, and I threw it all in the trash can.
Yeah,
I got frustrated. I just chunked it all. I was like, I quit. And my wife was like, she literally pulled all the papers out of the trash can. I kind of just had a meltdown, man, like a little girl. I just completely, it was like, I was looking for my whoopee or something, and
yeah.
She pulled it out, and she goes, you're not going to quit, and she said, just do a little bit of it. Just, look for one director, show one director, what you have. And so she kind of helped me get more specific, and then I started, shopping around for directors, and that's how the process was found. But it was a brutal process. And then I had the plays had some luck also. When I first did it for someone, it was only 20 minutes long, and I did it. I remember so I found my director, and we started working on it, and he said, let's put it together and let's see what we got. So we put a version of it together, and I basically memorized like 6-7 monologues and had 20 minutes worth. And we did it for 5 people and some highly respectable people in the theater industry. And, they were like, you're kind of onto something. There's something there, and it needs a lot of work, basically. But you're onto something. I mean, I see something in that what you're trying to do. Yeah. And so we took that information and we went back, and I said, Patrick, let's just, let me just find a festival to do this thing and get this thing over with, and let's just kind of restructure. I said, would you mind working? Because, Francisco, at that time, I mean, so many directors have already told me no. And one guy, I'll never forget him. That was a dumb idea. He was like, what you're trying to do doesn't make sense. There's no arc. There's no structure, and he gave me his ideas. And I was like, so he was really, uninspiring. But I was kind of, this director, he's been inducted into the Indie Theater Hall of Fame, and he's well respected. And I was also embarrassed, I was like, I'm paying some dude to help me with a project that I don't know if it has any life. Mm-hmm. You're kind of just, you're whistling in the dark, to be honest with you, and that's sometimes, that's the scary thing about acting when you're either creating a character or you're creating a project, you're kind of whistling in the dark because you don't know, no one knows. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Apocalypse Now, but, Heart of Darkness. Yeah, have you seen Heart of Darkness?
Yes.
Yeah, so he thought he had a shithole.
Yeah.
He literally, and he was freaking out, and he was going nuts, and he remortgaging his house, and a lot of you don't know until the final product comes out, because it's so subjective if people are going to, if it's going to resonate with people. So we worked on it again. He said, "Yeah, I'll work on it with 5 more weeks, I can't remember, and then let's just do a festival, and we'll say we did it, And
yeah.
We found a Memorial Weekend. I'll never forget. It was raining. It was a Monday night, I think, or a Sunday night. It was a small festival, and even the festivals told me no. Like, festivals said, well, and this is 7 years ago, when we were still in the Middle East. And they're like, yeah, I don't think people want to see that, and so I couldn't even get into festival. I mean, and I'm not even talking about, prestigious festivals, just any festival. I mean, like, 20-minute mom and pop poet festivals,
Downtown Lincoln Tuesday night festivals, right?
None of them. And this one Monday night, downtown festival on the Lower East Side, somebody had dropped out, and she said, well, are you off book? Meaning, do you have it memorized? And I said, yeah. She goes, well, we're going to do, like, I think you'd go well with this other one-woman show. We'll do you guys back-to-back on Memorial Night or Memorial Weekend. And it was a Sunday night before Memorial, and it was raining. No, it was Monday night. It was raining, and I didn't want to go. I was like, I didn't want to go. It was Monday night. It was dark, and it was like, weather was crappy, and I knew there was no one going to be in the house. I was like, this is miserable. There's nothing worse as an actor to go into a theater or a house and know that no one's going to be there to support you, Yeah. There was like 5 people in the house, and, and you have to go through the whole thing, So I did it, and I performed it, and at the very end, I got a small little standing ovation. And a woman came up to me, and she was in tears, and she basically said, you're onto something very special here. I lost my brother in Afghanistan, and I hope you keep going. And from that reaction, me and my director, we were kind of floored, and we thought, I think maybe that gave me confidence for the first time that I was
doing something right.
And then it gave me confidence with more importantly, it gave me confidence with my director that this is not a stupid idea. There is something here. So we decided to work on it again, and we said, let's flush it out. Let's get it into like a 45-minute version. Let's find some more pieces. Let's give it some more balance. We didn't have enough women. We didn't have any children in it, So he said, you need to go back to your research. And I was like, I remember when he told me that after a rehearsal, I wanted to kill him. He said, you got to find some letters from women, from children. We got to give this play balance. And so I did that. We crafted it, and then I did it off Broadway for 2 nights. And I was part of a festival to go to Scotland, and this reviewer found out that I called it The American Soldier. I'm really glad that I call it The American Soldier, because it's very it's the right name for the play now that I've been doing it for so many years, because really what The American Soldier is it's a mosaic of what makes up the American soldier.
Yeah.
I do many ethnicities and everything, but really when I was trying to name, I had to name it for this other festival, which is now I was moving up the scale, and because I was taking the play to Scotland, and so they said, we'd like to invite you to an off-Broadway festival of plays that are going to Scotland. Would you like to do it for 2 nights? And I said, yeah. I didn't even have a name for the play yet. And I called it Brotherhood. I called it Soldiers of Brother. I mean, just all kinds of weird, dumb names. And so it said, you got to name your play. And so I said, well, now I have to name it. And whatever name I pick is going to be the name now. And my wife, I remember she was just call it the American Soldier. And I said, I can't call it the American Soldier. I mean, how cliche is that shit? The American Soldier. I said, just that's what it is. You're telling the American Soldier story. And so then I was going to call it the American Soldier story, but that name, believe it or not,
flow.
It doesn't flow, and it's a film and it's been taken.
Oh, there you go.
So I call it the American Soldier. So then I went. So I did I was going to perform for this festival, and a reviewer from the Huffington Post reached out to me, and she saw my play, and it caught her interest, and she said, "Listen, I'm reviewing all the plays, and I like to review your play because it sounds really interesting." And I was like, "Oh fuck, you got to be kidding me." She's going to review me now. I mean, that's the last thing I want is a Huffington Post girl to come review me,
Either good or bad.
And so, but it was good. That was the luck thing, and she loved it. I mean, we sold out both nights, and she gave me this just amazing review, and she said, this is a very powerful piece of theater. And then I took it to Scotland. And now I had kind of my sea legs underneath me, and I felt confident with what I was doing, and we all felt confident, and I felt like I had a track record, and I had a little bit of press too. And so when I did it in Scotland, I did it at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. It was a very big festival in Scotland. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest theater festival in the world, really. And there's 3,500 shows, and when I was nervous going there because I was, doing as an American doing a play called The American Soldier in Scotland. I was waiting for some Scot or Brigunk. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah.
I'm the American Soldier. But what I didn't realize there is that a lot of the Scots and there's a lot of UK vets who are struggling with PTSD.
Oh yeah, they're all over the world.
Yeah, and they're dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with, and in many ways worse because. My wife is Scottish, and the Brits, when Americans get upset, for the most part, we tend to tell people how we feel. The whole thing, stiff upper lip over there, they hide everything. They don't really express any problem. And even if you're living with your parents, the parents don't act like there's any problems with anybody because it's all about, keeping a strong face, never showing any weakness. And so after the play, and this is where the Q&As really started, after every play, mothers in tears started coming to me and crying, and veterans come up to me and hugging me and saying, this is our story, and then I got nominated for an Amnesty International award, and that's when the play really took off. Mm-hmm. That's when it started getting noticed, and people started to say, hey, then I started getting invites. So that's how the theater business and the acting business goes. It goes from no one wants to hear you.
I think that's with everything, though. I think with everything, It's you bust your ass. Nobody believes in you, and it's that getting past that point of where everybody tells you no, and everybody tells you to stop, and everybody tells you to just give up, like you have nothing there. But when you believe in something so much and you give so much to it, that eventually you catch your break, and then stuff starts happening for you instead of you making it happen.
You hit it on the head, man. You just got to keep believing. Yeah. It's scary, though, and I know it's scary for everybody. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It's scary because you're whistling in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know where out is, and you don't know if you're going in the right direction, if you're going in this direction, so...
you just got to be stubborn.
Yeah. Without a doubt. You just got to be stubborn. And, then I started getting invites, and then that's when... and now, that's really about 5 years ago when I did the performance where I got reviewed by the Huffington Post, and I went to Scotland, and I've been doing it since. I've done it, and since then I've been invited to some really prestigious places. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I got then I got invited to the Kennedy Center, and then I got invited to the Library of Congress, and then Then I got invited to the New York Federal Reserve Bank, and then I've been invited to the American Legion National Headquarters.
There you go.
Now, I'm going to Stockton now, California, and now the word is starting to get out now. And veterans see the play, and the way I get produced and the way I get picked up is, I did it in New Hampshire just recently, and somebody else in New Hampshire, I had like 10 Gold Star families there, and they were very moved, and we almost sold out, and so they said, we got to bring you back. And so they got me to another theater, and then someone saw it in Bedford, New York, and he worked at the New York Federal Reserve Bank, and he told the whole bank they had a veteran outreach division division, and they said, we got to bring this play here. It's an amazing play. And then someone connected me to Kevin Dobson in L.A., and he's the one who's got me out to California, and so that's how the play starts moving around.
I hear you. I mean, it'd be awesome to have you up here in Sacramento.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be. I would like to go to Sacramento. I'd like to go to San Diego's really. So I've been talking with San Diego.
Would be big.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that I can get out there. But to your listeners, man, I know Sacramento is only about an hour from Modesto or Stockton, so I promise them that it'll be worth it if you're a veteran or a family member of a veteran.
No, definitely. I'm definitely going to make it out to your next show, whether it's on the first, second, or third. And we'll talk about that later offline. But I'll get some of my guys over here to go with me, so it won't be just me. I had a couple people in Merced as well that I'll try to bring up as well. We'll try to make it an event.
It's free too. Listeners should know. It's subsidized. The performance in Modesto is $8.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much money. And that's one night only. That's on the first, and then the one in Stockton is free for both nights.
Okay.
Again, it's so. Yesterday, I emailed the theater in Stockton. I said, "Hey, I should get a head count from you guys because I'm about over 200 RSVPs already, and I just want to make sure, that we don't overbook." And he said, "Yeah, we should find that out because I just got somebody from their analytics or from the website at the university said that." The page that the information for my theater is on is the highest ranking page out of all within their whole entire website.
Wow!
So it's been getting a lot of clicks. So I think the Stockton is going to be it's going to be two strong houses. And from what I hear, Modesto is really strong. I didn't know California has the highest. There's more veterans living in the state of California than any other state in the union. I didn't know that.
No. Yeah, we're strong out here.
Well, you tend to think that southern states or states in the mid, Texas is where I'm from. I was on a podcast a couple of days ago, and that's exactly what I said. I said I kind of thought Texas was, and then it's not. Then after California, it's Pennsylvania, which I found really surprising. Texas, I think, is third, and then Florida's like fourth. But yeah, I would have thought Texas first, Florida first. But no, it's California. The whole Northwest is loaded with veterans, and Los Angeles area has a huge Hispanic veteran population. I think there's something like they're getting 12,000 veterans. I think a year, or his veterans are coming to Los Angeles and the San Diego area. So it's
just going back home.
yeah. How many? So were you in Army? What were you?
I was in the Army for 6 years. I joined at the tender age of 21. So I had lived a little bit of life before I joined, and I did 6 years in, 2 years inactive. I was an interrogator. I deployed to Afghanistan for a year, my last year in the service. I actually had to ask the sergeant, the battalion sergeant major to move me companies because the company they assigned me to was already deployed, and I wouldn't have been able to deploy. So I got lucky. Funny story is like the dad moved in. I went to Texas at Fort Sam Houston because I was in processing, and the sergeant major of the battalion walks in, and he's like, "Hey, specialist, how you doing? Blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh, good." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Well, sergeant major, I'm going to the 201st, but I would really like to go to the 14th." Well, why is that, specialist? And I'm like, "Well, 201st is forward deployed right now, and I've never deployed, and I want to deploy. You don't join without wanting to actually do your job."
Right.
And he was so impressed. He was like, "Hey, Sergeant, you make this happen?" And the sergeant was like, well, Sergeant Major, he's supposed to go to 12. He's like, "Hey, Sergeant, you gonna make this happen?" He's like, "Roger that, Sergeant Major." He's all right, specialist. Carry out. I was like, all right, shit, cool. Closed mouths don't get fed, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up deploying that year with a bunch of guys, and we get out there in Afghanistan and do some interrogations.
I thank you guys so much, man. I always get tearful listening to your story because I've talked to a lot of guys like you who went off to Afghanistan, and I just think we just owe you guys so much. I just
But see, the thing is like, I don't think anybody owes us. I just think I don't think I'm the only one that's like this. Is I don't feel like I'm owed anything. I don't feel like anybody owes us anything. But at the same time, shit shouldn't be as hard coming back.
No, that's my point.
Yeah,
that's the thing that I've always stressed really strongly in all my columns, and I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've done a lot of interviews. I'm just now starting to do the podcast, but a lot of the media interviews I've done, like periodicals, newspapers, and magazines, and that's what I've always said. I said it's just not fair for our veterans to come back and be struggling financially or not to be able to get their benefits, whether that be the GI benefits or the VA. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a big post not too long ago, and I said it's basically bullshit that we have a buggy on Mars taking selfies, and yet we can't fix the VA.
Yeah, but that's getting into all kinds of different political shit.
I get it. But,
Flint still doesn't have water. Puerto Rico still isn't freaking back to normal.
What scares me, Francisco, is I've been blessed to have the opportunity to become friends with many veterans from many different conflicts, and I've even gotten to meet guys from the Second World War.
Wow!
I performed in Austin, and they invited me to a special luncheon in Austin, and I did a little version of my play for these World War II veterans in this old retirement home. One guy was in the Battle of the Bulge, one guy was in a Nazi concentration camp, and the other guy was on D-Day. And so I met them, and I've met Korean veterans, and I'm friends with a lot of Vietnam veterans, and I'm friends with a couple of Desert Storm guys. And the thing that I've always noticed from all of them is the unbelievable how selfless they've all been, and I just think that we owe so much to you guys and that you guys should not. The idea that you guys can't get your benefits just to me is mind-boggling. And what worries me is that in years, what's going to happen in the next conflict? Because now, after Iraq and the second Iraq invasion and Afghanistan, is my son's generation going to be like, fuck that? I mean,
Yeah, because it is a different society, and it is a different. We're more aware. Our generation coming up is a lot more
aware. Like, why would I want to do that?
Distrusting of the people that are above them. Authority no longer has the power that it once had before.
Nah, and that scares me because the thing that I've learned from every conflict is that what's been beautiful about this country, whether you agree in whatever war we've been in, is that this country has a tremendous amount of men who without the draft, who volunteer to defend the country.
Yeah,
and from every ethnicities. And I did a World War I play, and I got to meet the family of the guy who I wrote the play for the Library of Congress, and he was a Hungarian Jew, and that story goes way back. And I just worry that if we don't turn the ship and show our veterans today that we're going to take care of them. We're going to make sure they come back on a much smoother rate and have the capabilities to receive all the benefits that they're owed. Then the generations below them are going to look up and going to say, "I don't know if I want to do that." I've heard stories about Vietnam, and I saw the way they treated the guys in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I don't think I'm going to do that. And we're going to have, we're going to have a shortage of men who are willing to stand up for us.
But see, that's why stuff like this discourse is so important, because it puts people like yourself who are doing something amazing with this play, and somebody like me who's just trying to reach out and let people know that, you know, they're not alone, that everybody has similar issues that they're going through together. And it allows us to have these conversations and put this out there, and so that we can hopefully spark somebody that will make change.
Yeah, I mean, that's my goal. You know, I do come to the play because, I mean, the Q&As afterwards are so emotional. And the play is good now because it's had the opportunity to get, you know, it's had a 5-year run, you know, and the beauty of the play now is that, you know, now the play is mine. You know, now I know what I'm doing with the play, so to say, with the words and you know, what's been really cool about the play is that besides the amazing stories that I hear and the letters I get, I have a link on my website called Veteran Testimonials, and those are all just messages from veterans and family members of veterans who have written me. And there's another link there from social media and the video responses that I get afterwards. And it's always really powerful. But, you know, there's always a veteran that says, hey, you know, if you need to tuck your shoelaces into your boots when you're marching, and make sure you always step left, and, you know, your shoes should be a little bit more polished. And you know when you do that 50 caliber machine gun thing, it should be. And that was a woman who taught me that the 50 caliber machine gun. She goes, your hands are way too wide; they need to be much more narrow. And so the play over the years has been refined by veterans. It's not only their words, which gives it makes it authentic and gives it the credibility, and obviously the emotion is there, and the craft and the arc of the play is there now. But the details of the play are there now because it's been over the journey of the play. It's been cleaned up by veterans themselves. So, and it's been so tight. You know, the details of the play are so tight that when I did it for the American Legion, and then Legion is a bunch of old timers, but, you know, guys who've served for many years, they couldn't believe that I wasn't a veteran. Because they were like, are you sure you're not a veteran? And I'm pretty sure I'm not a veteran. And they're like, it's just unbelievable how your details, like, who taught you that stuff? Like, did you get intel from someone? You know, and I said, no, man, it's just research. I mean, there's no intel. It's just research and letters and veterans, and I share them, you know. And so the play now is, you know, and what I didn't know in the beginning of the process, what I know now is, when those details are really tight, it allows for everything else to come out to be heard, right?
Yeah, because all veterans, we watch movies and we're like, that fucking uniform's fucked up. Or they wouldn't do that. Are you serious? Like, that's just ingrained in us because we're taught to pay attention to the details of everything, because if your uniform's not tight and you can't pay attention to that detail, how are you going to focus on the details in war?
Exactly, yeah. I remember when I did it in Scotland, that there was a UK vet. He was like 60 years old, and he said, your shoes should be spick and span. And I said, I think they're pretty shiny. And I mean, they weren't dirty, you know. And he said, no. They need to be spick and span.
You'd be able to see yourself.
Yeah, he says, you would never, your boots are always shiny. And I mean, I'm not a veteran, so I didn't know, you know. And so I was like, okay. And then another veteran told me, you know, he gave me a compliment on it, and it was by luck that I did it. And now I never, you know, he says, your blanket is folded perfectly. So I have a trunk. It's basically, for your audience to know, I have a flag behind me, and it's just a trunk and a table and a chair. And on the trunk, I have a blanket folded, and it's a prop, but I use it. But when you see the play, it's there folded. And the guy goes, yeah, that's folded perfectly. Should have nice, crisp folds in it. And I said, okay. And I remember when I folded the blanket, I was just like bored, and I was just making it perfect just because I was bored. And so the play, you know, so now, you know, the play's, it's been given the thumbs up or the okay by vets and their family members. And, you know, and I try to tell a full story of what veterans go through. I tell the story of what veterans go through and what their families go through. I mean, I make that point really strongly. It's really a play about veterans and their families, because I believe that we always say thank you for your service to our veterans, but sometimes, and a lot of times, it's the families who pay the bigger price. And I make that point. I try to make that point that, you know, we owe so much to all the men and women, but we also owe so much of the husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and children of veterans.
No, most definitely.
And and I play a black character, I play a Hispanic character, I play a guy from Boston, and I did my best to, I wanted to give as an immigrant myself, my mother's Colombian and my father's from Argentina. I wanted to give a true depiction of what the American soldier has been and is.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I obviously haven't seen the play. I will make it out for May 1st. Do you change on stage, or do you change uniforms or outfits, or?
No, I do all my changing on stage. I wear one uniform.
Okay.
It's the same uniform that I created. It's basically combat boots and pants and a shirt that's probably not the most accurate, but it works. But now I'm so attached to it that I can't change it. But it works. I mean, the costume has never been questioned. It works well.
Okay, I hear you.
But no, I use the same costume to morph into different characters.
Do you use headgear?
No headgear.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always fight headgear. I performed at huge theaters, and they were like, "We've got to put a headgear on you." No, you're not going to put a headgear on me. This is not a presentation. This is not a concert.
Gotcha.
So we always put mics in the front.
No, okay, sorry. Hold on. Headgear is how we refer to your cover,
like a helmet?
your hat, your head helmets, your.
I only wear a helmet once, and that's for the World War I character, and it's actually an actual World War I Panzer Division helmet.
Okay.
And how did I know all that? Because some veteran told me.
I hear you.
It had the symbol on the front. He goes, "How'd you get that helmet?" I said, "eBay."
There you go.
And he told me. Yeah, and I remember trying to buy the helmet and the trunk, and it was I mean, it's a whole world out there, I mean, like, you can spend $5,000 on an army trunk.
Oh yeah.
Some of them go for $50,000. I saw some of them going for $50,000.
Well, because we don't use those no more. Now it's all plastic, freaking.
And depending on what battle that trunk was part of, determines its value. Like if it was a unit that landed on D-Day, those are really valuable. And same thing with the helmets. And I had no idea. And the trunk that I have, it's still the original trunk, and it's getting beat to hell. It's over, what are we, 60, so it's over 80 years, it's almost 80 years old, and I don't beat to hell. The people who beat it to hell is the airlines.
Yeah.
Because they just chunk it around, and then I keep telling, I put Fragile on it, and I haven't found a way to ship it, because I'm always too scared to ship it without me.
Yeah.
So I always go with it. Because the last thing I want to do is land on a destination where I'm performing and not have my army trunk. Yeah. So I always go with it. So I haven't found a way of, wrapping it. And you can't really wrap it because they always want to see what's inside of it.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that it'll make it, I'm looking at it right now, and it's, it's been a very special trunk. And I remember bidding for it on eBay. I kept getting outbidded every night. I kept getting outbidded. And it started like at $50, and it ended up going for like $800. And I was like, and then I started, and I didn't want to spend more than a couple $100, and I get around $250, and it'll go for $450. And so one night I just stayed up all night, literally, Francisco. I didn't go to bed because I was getting beat in the morning. I was getting outbid, so I had to stay up all night, and I just stayed there all night. Whenever someone would bid me, I bid it right on. And I got it like around 4 o'clock in the morning. I got it, and
nice.
It's crazy, man. It's a whole world. I was like, who the fuck is still up? Like, what the fuck? Go to bed.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, man.
Yeah, I was like, God damn! I was like 4 o'clock in the morning. You son of a bitch! And I got the trunk, and the same thing with the helmet. Man, I was getting outbid. I was like, I thought I was going to get like $50, and they were going for $400, $500, and same thing. So when I got the helmet, I kind of knew what the pattern was, and I was like, there's some crazy people out there, man. But when you get on eBay and you research this stuff, it's crazy what you can find out there. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, you can buy damn near anything. Anything's up for sale now.
Yeah. So the trunk is authentic. The helmet is authentic. I wear that for the World War One piece, and the cigarette case that I use in the World War One monologue is authentic. It's an actual cigarette case from World War One.
I was gonna ask you, could you give us like I don't know, 2 minutes or 3 minutes of the play?
Yeah, it never comes across well on kind of this platform, but let me find a piece that will resonate from you. So let me go backwards. You have to kind of rewire to start in a different place. You have to rewire your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I got you. I know I kind of put you on the spot. I should have asked you beforehand.
No, it's okay. So I'll do the piece that's relevant because it's a guy from. I did this before. When I was in New Hampshire. I did a big radio interview, and she asked me to do something. I did the Southern War, the Civil War character, but I'll do this Afghanistan guy.
I might just be a Southern lawyer.
Yeah. He says, I've been back from Iraq for about a year now, and I already want to go back. I miss my buddies, man. I miss the fucking edge. I miss that shit. I miss holding a 50 caliber machine gun and having the power coursing through your veins. The feeling of just from the pull of the trigger, the sounds of locking and loading your fucking guns. Man, I miss that shit. What I miss the most, man. What I miss the most is I miss my brothers. Yeah. I wish I could feel more comfortable being back home, but I know when I come back here, I'm just going to be all depressed, and I just want to go back home. I mean, go back off to war. My wife doesn't want me to go back, which is natural, right? I don't even know if I want to go back, but I've only done one deployment. Shit. Some of my buddies, man, they've done 2, 3, 4, 5 deployments, man. They've been back to back to back to back, man. Some of the shit they've experienced is just freaking overwhelming. Yeah. Since I've been back, I've realized how much I miss my wife. I do, man. I love her. I mean, when you're over there, you miss the feel of a woman, you miss the smell of a woman. But I'm having a real hard time finding things to talk to her about. It's not her fault. It's just a lot of the stuff she says to me is so meaningless and senseless. Honey, you want to go to Kim's house for dinner? Or you want to go to the movies? I was thinking we paint the kitchen and get some brand new drapes. What I really want to do is get a brand new crock pot. What the fuck do I care about a crock pot? I don't tell her that, but that's what I'm thinking, man. How could I be talking about all this mundane crap when I've been over there blowing crap away like a fucking video game? Everyone back here is all focused on all that shit that you can't relate to because it ain't life and death. Everyone here has all that other stress that you can't seem to relate to because it ain't life and death. As a sense of purpose, man, combat is it. It's the only game in town. All the things that make life worth living back home, they're not present where in combat. I mean, we talk about firefights. We dream about firefights. Shit, man, I don't think I could ever be satisfied with a normal life, whatever that is. I think I'm ruined for anything else. I mean, war is a lot of things, man, but let me tell you, it is useless to pretend exciting isn't one of them. It is fucking insanely exciting, man. The sounds it makes, the machinery of it, the urgency of its use, the consequences of everything about it is the most exciting things anyone engaged in war has ever experienced. And we talk about this stuff with our friends and our families and our wives, but they'll never know. No. They'll never know. Anyhow, I'll stop it there, man.
Fuck. Wow. Bravo. You got me teary-eyed there. No lie.
There's more. It goes more about. I want you to come to the play. So
I'm coming to the play. I'm even more so now. Like, there's no question. Wow. You guys heard it, man. That is moving. That is everybody's. Not everybody's, but that is a lot of people's feeling when they come back.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
personally, it resonated with me.
Yeah, wait till you hear the Hispanic guy. The Hispanic guy is really good too. He's my favorite. He breaks me up all the time. The Hispanic guy is a character that I'm Hispanic.
You're Hispanic.
It's a whole nother. my parents are Hispanic, and I say I'm American because my mom, I do it out of respect for my mom. I was on another podcast, and we went through a whole conversation. The people who were interviewing me were from Puerto Rico and Cuba, and we were going into this, if I'm Hispanic or not. And anyway, I won't go into it. It's a whole different subject. But, I say I'm American. My parents are Hispanic only because my mom, she came to this country to have me as an American. She used to always say,
yeah.
I busted my ass to have an American child. You're going to click off Hispanic just because fucking some school gave you a checkbox. You check off American. So I do it for her. So that's why I say that. But my parents were Hispanic, and I wanted, there's a lot of me in the play, but I wanted a little bit of them, and the struggle and my father was very patriotic, and he also instilled the patriotism in me. And most immigrants are very patriotic, and that's the thing immigrants have. They have patriotism because they want their. When an immigrant comes here from wherever they come from, they got to prove themselves to everybody.
Yeah.
And so they latch on to the country they're in, and they're very pro-American. And they're grateful that from wherever they're coming from, because they're coming from shit parts of the world that are given no opportunities to them. So the immigrants that get the opportunity to start a life here then and today are grateful for that country, and they fall in love with America. And my dad was no different. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he was very patriotic. And so the Hispanic character, I'm glad I did him because I wasn't going to do him, and not because I was trying to eliminate him. I was just I was confused on where to go in the direction when I was creating the play. But every time I do that play, I'll never forget that there was a guy at the Library of Congress. He came up to me. He was Puerto Rican, and and I speak fluent Spanish. And he said, it's really easy for me to get teary-eyed. I get all messed up. That's why it's dangerous for me to do these, to get into it, because I'm going into a different place. But
that's emotional intelligence, though.
Yeah, he said, I'm really glad that you did a Hispanic character. I really appreciate that. And because a lot of people don't know that a lot of us today are Hispanics who are fighting the wars.
Oh, majority.
And I said, yeah, I know it, man. That's why I did it, man. And he just gave me a big hug, and he was the Q&As afterwards are always emotional. You'll see. I mean, people. And they vary in range. The emotion comes from all over the direction. It comes from young guys, old guys, parents, white guys, black guys, Hispanics. It's, I think what the play does, it has many layers to it, but I think the other layer that the play has that seems to bind people, and it seems to get the same message from any ethnicity or any part of the country that I'm in, is that it reminds us when the uniform bounded us as a country. And I think that gets people very emotional, and people who, children of the World War II era, when they see the Iwo Jima monologue, they remember their parents when, the percentage rate of, people who served was like 50 or 60%. And then, when they hear the guys in Vietnam, they remember all their buddies and how many guys, joined and were drafted. And they remember they were fighting a common cause, and whether what was going on politically here in the country. And then, the Afghan and the Iraq, the modern wars, and, you remember the young guys and the people who are associated with those wars and the girlfriends and wives. They remember when, after 9/11, when, the country was hell-bent and was shaking its saber, and how, we all had a common cause. And then when you hear the revolution pieces and the Civil War pieces, you remember the history of America, because everybody is taught the greatness of the history of America, right? We beat the British Empire. We're the only country that are able to beat the British Empire. And then the Civil War, and the Civil War is a very defining moment in this country. And how many movies and books and stories have been done on the Civil War?
Yeah.
So they, it reminds them of the greatness of America. So I think, when they hear the play, whoever you are, you have an association to America that is very unique or ambiguous to yourself, that it brings that out, right? and it tears down, it erases all the political bullshit that's going on for that 1 hour. For that 1 hour, all the political shit is gone, is erased. You're just an American. And when everybody in the audience feels that, they miss that, you know?
Yeah.
They miss just being an American, not a Republican or Democrat or pro-Trump or anti-Trump.
United.
Whatever. Yeah. They remember being united. And that gets people emotional, you know? Besides, you know, the personal stories, you know, I mean, you know, when I was in Bedford, New York, I heard a very powerful story, and, you know, I did a fundraiser in Bedford, New York for about 300 people, and it was to help raise money for veterans to use canine and equine therapy for horses, horse therapy. And so they asked me to do a fundraiser, and she saw me in Bannerman Island, and she asked me, you know, we would love to have you help us raise money. And I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. So we did it, and we had a great turnout. It was like a wedding. It was really special performance. It was in Bedford, New York, and for you guys who know Bedford, New York, it's like the Hamptons but without the beach. It's gorgeous, and it's an old town of New York that just has become infiltrated by rich people, but it's really beautiful. It's like going to some part of California that is just. There used to be like this, you know, fisherman's wharf, but now it's, you know,
Carmel.
for rich people. Yeah, it's like going to Carmel. Exactly, Carmel. I was trying to think where Pebble Beach was at, but where was Pebble Beach
Pebble
at?
Beach is right next to Carmel.
Yeah.
17-mile drive.
Right. So now it's full of rich people, but before it was just an oasis in some part of California. Same thing with Bedford, New York. It's just gorgeous. It's like white houses, white barns everywhere. It's just really pretty. And so, you know, we had like 300 people there, and you know, young guys, old guys, and we're doing a Q&A, and it was really emotional. And this Vietnam guy stands up after the Q&A, and he says, you know, my friend's name's on a plaque outside this barn. It was in a barn, but it had been converted into like a wedding reception area. It was beautiful, and it's on a name for all the Vietnam veterans from Bedford who fought in the war and didn't come back. My best friend's name's on there, and I haven't talked to him in probably 50 years. And he started to cry, and we had to wait for him to stop crying. I'm trying not to cry now, but he said, I'm going to go talk to him for the first time, and I want to thank you for allowing me to have the courage to go talk to my friend now.
Wow.
So when I tell you, you could hear a fly in that place. I mean, that place was silent. And he broke me up so bad. I get emotional during the play, and then I kind of recover, you know, towards the end. And then the play has an uplift too. I should tell people that the play has a positive thing about the military, which I think also makes it successful.
Well, it is positive. I mean, that piece you said is, most people may not deem it as something that's positive, but even that little piece, you it resonates with people in a way that lets them feel like, shit, I feel like that too. And that feeling creates positivity, because you're not feeling like you're alone. And with the whole 22 a day thing, that's a lot of the reason people are offing themselves. Yeah.
But I mean, there's one character that comes out 3 times, same guy, and he has 3 lessons, and he gives the lessons of discipline, brotherhood, discipline, teamwork, and brotherhood. And that's another layer in the play that reminds veterans, yeah, I remember that shit. I remember the brotherhood shit, and I remember the teamwork, and I remember the discipline. You know, that's a funny part of the play. You know, and I've heard some great stories, but you know, when he told me that, I mean, I basically stopped the Q&A because I was fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, he completely fucked me up. He fucked everybody up. Really. He basically threw a grenade in the Q&A and then walked out. I mean, you could hear people just bawling, and so, you know, I went to my dressing room and kind of caught myself, and the girl she's a therapist, and she was, you know, she helps with veterans, and she was crying, and we were holding each other, and she was like, you know, what you're doing is so powerful, and I was just like, yeah, that was fucking crazy to hear that story, and then I saw him afterwards, but yeah, I mean, and I can tell you stories like that I mean, if anybody has the time, I would say read the letters on my website.
I definitely will today.
you'll see the reaction, and those letters come without me asking. They just say, can I? And the moment anybody emails me a letter, I always ask, can I post it on my website, because I want people to know that veterans have given the okay, and I want to keep the message going. And the best way to keep the message going is by having veterans produce it, so to say.
Gotcha.
They've got to keep talking about it because the media is not talking about it. So if veterans say it's worth being listened to, then other veterans will want to listen to it. So
I definitely
all those letters I've been given the okay to produce. One guy said, please don't use my name. And I said, yeah, no problem. I won't put it up. No, I want you to put it up. I just don't want you to use my name. A lot of guys are scared about being found out if they have PTSD because they're applying for high risk employment, which means they're trying to become cops or firemen or Secret Service or whatever, and so
it'll disqualify them.
Yeah, gets them in there. It shouldn't legally.
Really shouldn't, but it doesn't matter. Yeah,
it does. Yeah,
but I have to run. I would love to keep talking to you, and I think
no problem,
I want to have you back on here in the future.
I would love to be back on. Let me just plug the show.
I was going to say, let the people know where to find you, how to get in touch with you, and everything. Yeah,
so please come to the guys. If you listen to this and you're a veteran or a family member veteran, I would love to have you in there. I'd like to pack the house, but do sign up quick. If you go to my website, theamericansoldiersoloshow.com, on the bottom, on the footer, there's two links, Modesto and Stockton. You can get, you buy the tickets for Modesto, it's only $8 on May 1st, and for Stockton, it's free. You just RSVP which night you want, and you're good to go. And in Modesto, it's going to be at the State Theater at 7 p.m. May 1st. And in Stockton, it's going to be Stockton, California. It's going to be on May 2nd, May 3rd at 7 p.m. at Delta College. So come, share it. My Twitter handle is @DouglasTaurel. And
Instagram.
Come support the play. Instagram, IG, same thing, @DouglasTaurel. And tag me, share the message, man, because it's really down to us.
Yeah, it is, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah, thank you. What you're doing is it's big. It's bigger than yourself. It's bigger than the platform that it's on now. And I see something for it in the future.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing your face, man, and giving you a hug.
Yeah, I'll see you next week, brother.
All right, brother.
Yeah, all right, you guys have a good one.
God bless, man.
All right, bye.